I'd like to share my experience with the FourSquare Aquatics algae turf scrubber since I've been running it now for about 2 years, if not longer. I'd seen it in action during one of my travels, and I thought, man, if I was ever going to get one, it's this one. But first I had to make a stand that would support it because it's really heavy. And I had to come up with something that would work in my current sump that's already operational. So I did a lot of doodling and I tried to imagine it, and then I started to bring it to life. And even then I was still guessing and drawing and sketching and trying to make sure I didn't make any mistakes so it would fit between the baffles and over the heaters and allow room for a filter sock to hang beneath and catch any algae bits that might fall out of the scrubber. I hate building anything twice. I wanted to get it right on the first attempt. What you're seeing here are images of me during the build back in March of 2020, where I had to make sure that this whole thing came together properly. It had to be sturdy. It had to be stable. I made the entire thing out of 3/8 cast acrylic. I wanted to make sure that I could reach in there and get to the filter sock from the side because it was going to be kind of in a tight area. Don't worry, we're going to get to the point here in a moment. I will show you all that you need to know about the scrubber itself. But, you have to live through part of this because there was no way for me to run it without this specific stand. Now that that part of my project is complete and it's cured and it's ready to get wet, I can go ahead and put the turf scrubber on top of it and see how it holds up right here on top of my table. So the box is relatively light until you install the light fixtures themselves. And then once you have water in there, it's going to become a heavier item. I think this thing weighs like 20, 30 pounds once operational. So, like I said, the stand had to be strong. Here's a recording from back in 2020 with my initial thoughts as I looked at it close up. So here is the cabinet. This is where the light will go, which is right here. The other light goes right here. You can see it's got a ton of LEDs. And underneath here, hard to do with one hand because it's a perfect fit. There we go, before I rip off a fingernail. So there is the inside with a drip bar that goes straight down the fabric. And then when you close this up, I'm hoping it's going to be very, very quiet. We'll see. Anyway, here's the important part I like. The drawer with the screen inside. So you can just pull the entire thing out, and then rain would be dripping down from that rod straight down inside the box. Put the drawer back in when you're all cleaned up. And this is my primary drain. I'm going to put a PVC pipe right here to go in the sock to catch any bits that escape. And there's an emergency drain here too. And this thing is going to sit on top of my triple baffles. So in theory, I've got this set up to where it's going to work out really well. And here it is with the lights installed. Okay, so there is a sound with this machine I didn't expect. It's the cooling fans, which makes sense. It's a little overly bright. And the back side here is where water goes in. This is 3/4 inch threaded. So I have to connect plumbing from here to my manifold to feed water into it. You can see there's ventilation slots on 3 sides of the light. The light stops about here, so if water was in the bottom, it would never hit the light. Here's a view from above, looking inside. The stand was installed in my sump between the skimmer zone and the return zone, and the algae turf scrubber was placed on top of it. Now this one cord, I needed to modify that. I didn't like the way those poked straight out, so I got some 90-degree power cords that I added later. They're not in these pictures, but they're further on in the video, I'm sure. As you can see, I definitely was growing some stuff, and I didn't include every single harvest, but what I did notice, I was getting a lot of growth in the bottom. So I took a piece of black polycarbonate and I put it inside the bottom of the drawer because there's no reason for it to be clear. And ever since, all the turf scrubbers are being built with black bottoms. And that allowed the bottom to stay relatively clean by comparison to how it was before. But my first year, I didn't have much luck growing good stuff. I kept growing this snot. And I was really frustrated and I didn't understand what was going on. And it just never looked like the stuff that Jason was pulling out of his own algae turf scrubber. And Jason's the guy that makes them. So he ended up sending me a screen later, a new one, with a few bags of hair algae so I could rethread it. And then I started to get better growth. And I started to get stuff that looked like algae. But I really wanted to see big, thick tufts of hair algae. One harvest, I ended up with all this ulva. Looked actually pretty awesome, but that didn't happen more than once. So the screen would be taken out and cleaned about every 15-20 days, and it became better and better. I shared quite a few of these moments in my Reef Diary series last fall, so if some of this looks familiar, it's the same footage. But I did want to show you that eventually I got this figured out, and I'm able to grow algae very, very well in usually about 15 to 20 days, and my harvests get bigger and bigger. Water flows through the algae turf scrubber 24 hours a day. But I only light it for 10 hours a day, and I do it from 2:30 in the morning to 12:30 in the afternoon. I chose to do that because I didn't want to hear the fans running when I'm awake, and this has worked out really well. I don't see the pink glow of that lighting because it's completely trapped inside the box, and because of the black base inside the drawer, none of the light shines down through the filter sock like you saw in the initial pictures and video. The cleaning process is not difficult. That's when you harvest out the hair algae. It takes maybe about 10 minutes. It takes longer if you're filming it. But all you have to do is remove the screen from that black lid, scrape off the algae on both sides, give it a quick rinse under the tap water for any loose stuff, put it back together, put the drawer back into place, and just let it continue. If you haven't seen these before, these scrapers are awesome. I got them from Amazon. I just got another package this week that had 2 of those handles and 20 or 100 of those plastic razor blades, so I can scrape down all my acrylic and plastic parts and not worry about doing any damage or scratching it. At the time of making this video, I believe the only place you can buy the FourSquare Aquatics Algae Turf Scrubber is BRS. So if you're trying to do something that looks like what I'm doing, you need to get one from there. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below this video, and I'll do my best to answer them, and if I don't have the answer, maybe Jason does. Thank you for watching. Please hit like. If you're not a subscriber to this channel, you're missing out on all this amazing algae content. This week's harvest yielded 2 pounds plus of hair algae, and that's after I squeezed all the liquid out of it before I even put it on the scale. It filled this cereal bowl completely. Clearly, the iron dosing has definitely made a difference. So, my screen is clean, it's back in the drawer, and again, I'll revisit it in a couple of weeks. And here, to wrap up the video, let's do some eye candy. So here are some of the corals from above, taken with the iPhone 13 Pro through a smartphone floater, something I sell for my website. I do hope that you appreciated seeing healthy corals and a lack of hair algae in the tank, because the hair algae is growing in the turf scrubber where it belongs. Are you running an algae turf scrubber? Now's the perfect time. Tell me in the comments down below and tell me how you're liking the results. I'd like to hear everything.